Ever feel like you're wading through a sea of information, just trying to grasp the essence of a complex thinker? Like you wish you had a cheat sheet to navigate the labyrinth of their ideas.
Well, today we're offering you a shortcut, a deep dive into the fascinating world of Margaret Sussman.
Yeah, think of this as your express lane to understanding her key philosophical contributions, drawing directly from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Right to the heart of the matter.
What makes Sussman so intriguing is her unique perspective. A German woman navigating the intellectual landscape of the 20th century. Picture her in conversation with the likes of Simmel, Buber, Bloch, and Lukács.
Embedded in those vibrant intellectual circles.
And her central concerns,
Yeah.
Jewish thought, and the ever-evolving role of women in a rapidly changing world.
And it's crucial to understand the historical backdrop against which she was thinking. The Wilhelmine Empire, the First World War, the turbulent Weimar Republic.
And then the unthinkable horrors of Nazism and the Shoah, followed by the post-war period.
These weren't just abstract events for Sussman. They were lived experiences that profoundly shaped her philosophical inquiries.
Yeah, she wasn't just theorizing from an ivory tower. She was engaging with the world through poetry, literary criticism, in-depth philosophical works, and thought-provoking essays.
A diverse range of expressions.
So let's dive right in, starting with her early work on Judaism and culture.
In her essay on the topic, she challenged a common tendency to reduce Judaism to a mere system of ethics.
She saw it as much more than just a set of moral guidelines.
Absolutely. She questioned this urge to compartmentalize human endeavors into neat categories like ethics, aesthetics, and logic.
Instead, she saw the religious dimension as the very heart of all culture.
The core, yeah. Ethics, aesthetics, logic, they all emanate from this central point, deriving their meaning from it.
So for her, ethics wasn't the defining element of Judaism.
Right. She argued that ethics was a means to an end within Judaism, not the end itself.
And this is where her connection to Simmel's work on religion becomes really interesting.
Indeed. Writing in the context of Simmel's theories, Sussman argued against assimilation, emphasizing the crucial and enduring significance of Judaism's contribution to modern culture.
And she actually offers an early perspective on interfaith dialogue, doesn't she?
Yes, even before Leo Baeck articulated similar ideas, Sussman proposed that Judaism isn't fundamentally a religion of fixed dogmas.
So a more dynamic understanding of Jewish belief.
Exactly. And she also had a very nuanced view on the relationship between Judaism and Christianity.
A relationship with centuries of, well, let's say complexity.
To put it mildly, while acknowledging the antagonism between the two faiths, she also pointed to their deeper connections.
After all, Christianity originated from within Judaism.
It's a point she consistently emphasizes.
Now let's move on to something that sounds almost poetic itself, the lyrical eye. This comes from her work on modern German poetry.
Yes, in the character of modern German poetry, Sussman introduced the concept of the lyrical eye as a defining feature of modern poetic expression.
It's easy to think of poetry as simply the poet expressing their personal feelings and experiences. But Sussman, particularly in contrast to Dilthey, had a different take.
Absolutely. Dilthey believed poetry primarily reflected the poet's authentic, lived experience. Sussman, drawing on Simmel's ideas, argued that poetry actively creates forms.
It's not just a mirror, it's generative.
Precisely. By poiesis, Sussman meant the act of making, of creating poetry.
So the lyrical eye isn't just a poetic diary entry.
No, it's a distinct form that the poet crafts, separate from their everyday self.
And this has implications beyond just how we analyze literature, right?
Absolutely. For Sussman, the lyrical eye is the formative principle of poiesis. Because it's a constructive act, she argued it has epistemological consequences, shaping how we understand ourselves and the world.
It projects a worldview.
Precisely. The lyrical eye projects an objective form of the eye, as Sussman called it.
And it touches on the uniqueness of the individual.
Yes, she believed that each individual is fundamentally unique, incommensurable with any other. The lyrical eye, through symbolic representation, becomes the expression of this singularity.
And she links this back to Simmel's notion of form, doesn't she?
Yes, she echoes Simmel's idea that form presents existence for us, that to form means to give the things their existence for us. The development of modern poetry, through this process of symbolizing modern experience and the diversity of lyrical eyes, performs a crucial philosophical task.
Poetry isn't just about feelings, it's about shaping our understanding of reality. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the meaning of love. Placing love at the center of philosophical inquiry seems like a significant move.
It was. Of the Meaning of Love, published in 1912, marked Sussman's entry into a predominantly male philosophical sphere.
And Simmel himself had already acknowledged the silencing of women's voices in intellectual discourse.
Just a year earlier, Simmel had analyzed the discursive silencing of women, even suggesting that it was cognitively challenging for men to fully grasp women's concerns. He himself recognized the need for a robust theory and metaphysics of love.
And it's worth noting that Sussman dedicated of the meaning of love to Simmel's wife Gertrude, which underscores their intellectual connection.
Absolutely. By tackling a subject often relegated to the periphery, the realm of so-called women's issues, and approaching it with philosophical rigor, Sussman challenged established norms.
So this was a bold move, a real challenge to the status quo.
Absolutely. She argued that love isn't simply a feeling originating within an individual, but the very power that brings the individual into being.
Love as a generative force.
Yes, a fundamental life force that precedes and informs individuation.
And she describes love in this paradoxical way as both being other and being one.
Right. She describes love as experiencing both the profound sense of being other and even more deeply the feeling of being one, creating this constant tension and demand for reconciliation.
So we can never fully grasp the essence of the person we love.
That's her argument. The essence of the you remains forever out of reach.
But love still plays a crucial role in how we understand our lives.
Yes, Sussman argued that love is the fundamental relationship that makes the meaning of our lives legible.
And these ideas seem to anticipate later thinkers like Buber and Levinas.
Absolutely. Buber's concept of the I-thou relationship and Levinas's emphasis on the otherness of the individual echo Sussman's concerns.
She also delves into the more tragic aspects of modern love.
Yes, she argued that the tragedy of modern love isn't the intrusion of some absolute force, but rather that the intensity of love for an individual can drive that individual further away.
She contrasts this with the classic love story of Tristan and Isolde.
Exactly. While Tristan and Isolde represent a past ideal of all-consuming love, the modern individuated soul experiences a kind of metaphysical loneliness that love can actually intensify.
And she doesn't shy away from examining the sexual dimension of love either.
No, she explores this geschlechtliche, the sexual aspect, beyond mere sensuality.
For her, it encompasses unconscious drives, even reproductive arrangements.
Right. And she also looks at how the difference of Geschlecht, sex, or gender impacts men and women beyond just the sexual realm.
She talks about this difference being rooted in what she calls the blind life's interference.
Yes, the very acts of procreation and birth shape the lives of men and women differently.
She discusses men's outward orientation versus women's inwardness connected to motherhood.
Yes, but it's important to note that she's careful not to assign any kind of superiority or inferiority based on this.
But she does argue that women have a distinct way of accessing the metaphysical.
Precisely. She argued that women possess a different but equally valid path to metaphysical understanding.
And she offers a rather demythologizing view of motherhood, doesn't she?
Yes, she moves away from idealized theological interpretations and focuses on a more grounded, immanent metaphysics of life.
And she makes a strong case for women's engagement with intellectual life.
Absolutely. She advocated for women reclaiming their intellectual life, not simply assimilating into the male world.
She saw women as essential to the realization of culture, even though it had been primarily shaped by men.
Yes, and she concludes this section by considering the role of art.
Art as a force for reconciliation.
Exactly. She believed that art provides the clarity of expression needed to reconcile love and the dark dynamics of matter. Art can achieve a reconciliation that philosophy and religion struggle with,
guiding us towards a truly doubly gendered culture. Now let's turn our attention to Spinoza and the Jewish disposition. This marks her first explicitly philosophical essay.
Yes, and in it, she identifies Baruch Spinoza as modern Judaism's only unique personality of truly creative magnitude.
She sees his philosophy as reflecting a core aspect of Jewish tradition.
Precisely. She argued that Spinoza embodies the type of the pure metaphysician, and that his philosophical method reflects the underlying disposition of Jewish tradition.
She talks about the shift from a metaphysical God to a religious God in Spinoza's thought. What does she mean by that?
She argued that Spinoza's initial conception of God, which is more abstract and metaphysical, evolves into a religious understanding when the world is seen as extending beyond the human mind. It's at this point that a genuine connection between the divine, the world, and human beings becomes possible.
And self-consciousness plays a key role in this.
Yes, Sussman interpreted self-consciousness in Spinoza as the soul's gaining knowledge of itself in the light of eternity, And this self-consciousness is actualized through love, a powerful and self-affirming love.
She also distinguishes between Spinoza's understanding of freedom and that of Kant and Fichte.
Right. Unlike Kant and Fichte, who saw freedom as liberation from the laws of the world, Sussman argued that Spinoza saw freedom as an understanding and acceptance of the world's rational order.
So aligning oneself with necessity rather than trying to escape it.
Yes, and this shifts the emphasis from an external ought to an internal sense of necessity.
What she calls Musen, driven by love and an orientation towards the fundamental ideas of reality.
Exactly. And to give this further context, she contrasts the Jewish disposition, which prioritizes law, obligation, and faith, with what she calls the Indo-Germanic disposition, which tends to center on the individual I.
And how does Spinoza's concept of self-preservation fit into this?
Sussman argued that for Spinoza, self-preservation isn't about egoism, but about recognizing one's essential being within God, a realization achieved through the love of God.
So love is the connecting force.
Absolutely. She highlighted the crucial mediating role of love in Spinoza's system. Her essay challenged the dominance of the Greco-Christian legacy in Western thought, emphasizing the constitutive role of love in a system often seen as purely rational.
Now let's move into some of the more profound and, well, darker themes in her work. Homelessness, exile, hope, redemption.
Themes that resonate deeply with the turbulent times she lived through.
Throughout her writing, she emphasizes the role of religion in understanding both metaphysics and modern life.
Yes, she approached these questions with a kind of post-secular sensibility, viewing the religious dimension as foundational for metaphysics.
And she saw homelessness and suffering as fundamental aspects of the human condition.
Yes, the experience of the world as alien, the certainty of death, these highlight our inherent being other.
And during World War II and the Shoah, she interpreted the Jewish experience within this broader context of human suffering.
Tragically, yes. She saw the plight of the Jewish people as an extreme manifestation of this universal homelessness and exile, what she called an exile in exile.
The Jewish people dispersed, lacking conventional forms of political power and protection.
Right, and she even suggested that this diasporic existence challenges traditional thinking about politics.
The fact that the Jewish people survived for centuries without a nation-state undermines the idea that political power and territorial belonging are essential.
Exactly. And in the face of such immense suffering, what role did she see for philosophy?
Yeah, what can philosophy offer when confronted with such immense tragedy?
For Sussman, philosophical thinking attuned to suffering could address the human need for hope and redemption.
And she had some interesting things to say about prophecy and hope.
Yes, she believed that turning to prophecy in times of crisis gave birth to the concept of world history. She saw the promises of the prophets as relevant, with the messianic vision of world peace as a key aspiration of modernity.
And her idea of messianic hope is quite unique. She called it hope without a foundation.
Right. Not based on rational certainty, but a universal form of thinking that reflects the paradoxical nature of human existence.
That image she uses about only being able to see the ground beneath our feet by looking at the stars is so striking.
It perfectly illustrates our need for something beyond ourselves to give us orientation and meaning. Now, let's delve into her ideas on the emancipation of women and gender relations. This was clearly a major focus for her.
It was. While she first touched on these themes in Of the Meaning of Love, her thinking evolved significantly through World War I and the Weimar period.
Becoming more explicitly political and engaged with social justice.
She critiques the traditional domesticated image of women.
Yes, she saw this as a form of domination and argued that women's emancipation was a struggle about language and image, requiring women to reclaim their own representation.
And she explored these issues in both historical and literary contexts.
Her books on women in the Romantic period and on Goethe and Charlotte von Stein shed light on the impact of gender roles, even in seemingly progressive circles.
She saw the rise of women as a transformative force, a third revolution alongside the proletarian and sexual revolutions.
Right, fundamentally reshaping a world built as exclusively male.
But she also acknowledged that this liberation came with challenges and uncertainties.
Absolutely. She called it a potential Pyrrhic victory, with the collapse of traditional certainties raising questions about the future.
What kind of world can mothers offer their children in this new landscape?
That's the question she was grappling with.
And she believed women had a key role to play in navigating this societal transition.
Yes, because they experienced these shifts so directly, she saw them as potential leaders in cultural transition.
She argued that women needed to appropriate aspects of male existence to achieve full humanity.
to understand and even, in a sense, become man, to claim their place in the world.
That quote she uses about the ordinary working woman's dream really stands out.
It highlights the often unseen inner lives and aspirations of women who were overlooked in a male-dominated world.
She also observed how World War I and the subsequent revolutions changed relationships,
Yes, those upheavals disrupted traditional forms of love and gender conventions.
rendering them obsolete.
In this era of radical change, she described the contemporary woman as being in a state of metaphysical homelessness.
Forced to reimagine themselves and create new forms of love and sexual expression.
And by 1933, she observed that the women's movement had evolved into a project for human renewal, where women were actively shaping their own path, no longer simply reacting to male visions.
Now let's talk about her interpretative studies, collected in Figures and Circles. This gives us a glimpse into her unique philosophical method.
It does. This collection of essays exemplifies her approach of exploring the deeper significance of historical and intellectual constellations through deep reading.
So more than just summaries of these thinkers.
Right, these are deeply engaged interpretations, addressing the challenges of her present moment through a dialogue with the past.
Her approach to understanding differs from someone like Dilthey, doesn't it?
Yes, while both recognized the importance of historical context, Sussman aligned more with Simmel.
She interpreted individuals within their historical moment, but without granting those moments absolute validity.
Right, and for Sussman, the act of understanding is a temporal and historical process.
Creating meaning in a fleeting moment that holds our truth and our connection to the eternal.
And her perspective on death and time resonates with Rosenzweig and Simmel, recognizing human mortality as the condition that shapes our experience.
But she differs from Heidegger's focus on being towards death by maintaining a more forward-looking orientation.
Into life, as she put it.
She was also an early and perceptive reader of Rosenzweig's work.
Yes, her review of The Star of Redemption was among the first to recognize its significance, and she later provided comprehensive accounts of his legacy.
And she also examined the complex figure of Moses Mendelssohn.
Yes, she explored his decision to embrace both German culture and Enlightenment thought while remaining grounded in Judaism.
A choice that reflects the enduring challenges of Jewish identity.
And she even offered a Jewish interpretation of Franz Kafka.
In her essay, The Problem of Job in Franz Kafka, she highlighted the role of Jewish tradition in his work.
Seeing his bleak landscapes as expressions of messianic longing, her interpretation was influential on later thinkers like Benjamin and Scholem.
The whole collection really showcases her dialogical approach to philosophy.
Figures and Circles highlights her receptive and dialogical method, where the negotiation between the universal and the particular is central to her thought.
Finally, let's turn to the Book of Job and the Destiny of the Jewish People, a powerful response to the Shoah.
Yes, published in 1946, it's one of the earliest attempts to grapple with the enormity of the Shoah. For Sussman, the Jewish problem was inseparable from the human problem.
It forced a reconsideration of what it means to be human.
And she uses the Book of Job as a framework for this meditation.
Not for easy answers, but as a basis for metaphysical reflection.
She had already used Job's experience of suffering to explore the Jewish dimension in Kafka, foreshadowing the destiny of suffering and exile.
And she argued that reason itself must be grounded in addressing suffering.
Yes, the ability to confront suffering becomes the measure of reason's validity. In the face of the Shoah, the distinction between philosophy and Jewish philosophy becomes untenable.
And her interpretation of Job focuses on a reversal of perspective.
Job's questioning leads to a shift where God becomes the questioner, revealing truth through dialogue rather than definitive answers.
It emphasizes the limits of human understanding.
And she argued that if defining God becomes impossible after the Shoah, then defining humanity is equally challenging.
The very essence of what it means to be human is called into question.
Her response to the atrocities was a call for unlimited, indelible mourning, an injunction against forgetting.
A sentiment echoed by Adorno and Fackenheim.
But she also finds a transformative hope in Job's experience.
A turning point that arises from an understanding of reason forged in dialogue with the unfathomable.
From this emerges messianic hope, not as an endpoint, but as a vantage point for action.
And she saw connections between her ideas and those of Walter Benjamin.
Yes, her Book of Job shares affinities with Benjamin's on the concept of history, particularly in their understanding of history, remembrance, and hope. So to wrap things up, Margaret Sussman was a significant figure, leaving behind a rich legacy of ideas.
A philosopher and public intellectual connected to prominent circles.
She played a crucial role in Simmel's reception and became a symbol of the endurance of German Jewish thought after 1945.
And her work continues to offer valuable insights into religion, love, selfhood, gender, and the response to historical catastrophe.
Her ideas remain relevant for understanding modernity and the human condition.
She compels us to question established norms, seek deeper meaning amidst uncertainty, and engage in critical dialogue.
To cultivate that dialogical space she spoke of.
And there's a profound depth to her thought that invites further exploration, prompting us to think critically and act as philosophers ourselves.
Engaging with the world and its complexities, seeking understanding and meaning.
Just as Sussman did.
Precisely.